right, guys, happiest Friday here from Paledora Resort.
Woo!
Let's get a shout out from the studio.
Let's worship!
We made it. Okay, today we recap all of the magical things that we've discussed in all the previous weeks of the important things to consider when ideating, creating, and building and growing a regenerative community. The term today we use is ecosystem. How do we create a space that works together to accomplish the goal of housing humans, growing food, and creating all of the sustainable resources that we need: food, energy, water. Today we are joined by Jean-Luc, a magician, the magician of this space, both Paledora Resort and Paledora Campus, where we've done all our other workshops. He has been in the jungle in Tulum for many, many years, and around Tulum, and has been doing a lot of conservation work here. We connected on the topic of communities and are really excited to be collaborating in this educative and thought-sharing space, and excited for future projects together of actually creating collective-style communities where everyone joins and everyone owns and everyone co-creates. Jean-Luc will be sharing today with us this topic of ecosystems, discussing the different components that make up a regenerative community as a whole. Some of these topics are the humans, we'll be discussing this, the economy of the space. Here at Paledora is a beautiful example of an economy being created through a workshop and retreat style space. Other topics like functionality of an eco-village and a regenerative community. How do we share tasks effectively? How do we store info effectively? How do we travel around the community, roads and structures and all these kinds of things for functionality? So Jean-Luc, I would love to open the floor to you to share your vision on this, your thought on this. I'm grateful to be connected with you on the regular and get to vicariously learn things through all of the experience you have, not just in this space of conscious land development and eco-villages, but also in the tech space and all the other entrepreneurial background that you have.
Okay, that's exactly what is an ecosystem.
Yeah.
So if today we try to talk about ecosystem or a human ecosystem, what I can say is my experience, our experience at Paledora, which is basically how we can create little human ecosystems,
Right.
not being so pretentious that we will do it as well as nature
Right.
is doing it, but there is no shame into trying to mimic nature, into understanding things and design a kind of economic system or piece of governance, but all that stuff we put it into an ecosystem.
Right. Yeah, I love the saying, model success, be success. And nature is the most successful startup in the world. Was here from the beginning, will be here long after we're gone, and can deal with a lot of stuff, all the stuff we've been putting it through.
Okay, so what we're trying to do here at Paledora is actually I'm trying to design an ecosystem where every things that are my passion here
Right?
could work together
Yeah.
in a way of an ecosystem.
Right.
Okay, the land, the ethic of the land,
Right.
the protection of nature, incubation,
Right.
that's my
Ideas.
background and,
Right.
and my work, incubate enterprise,
Yeah.
high impact project, economic, social, and environment,
Right.
and very recently, but not so very recently, but this last 3 years, community of people,
Right.
trying to get grounded into the jungle,
Right. Right.
which is two of my passions together,
Right.
but it was not enough. We worked like hell.
Yeah.
And how many projects did we? Boom. So
Yeah.
few, and it was really interesting. So my point here for ecosystem is definitely what I said, plus nomadism
Okay.
and an answer to a big discomfort here that I would call the housing crisis.
Okay, right. Housing.
Because
This is the
honestly,
topic.
how you can thrive, develop. Me, I can, because look where I live.
Right, because you
But
have.
you guys, you know, you live in a shit place.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
Right, we live in the city at the moment. We're
So
in the
if
middle
I
of
can
Tulum.
design an ecosystem
Right.
for all of you to live in the place like this,
Right.
with a fraction of the cost of buying a one-bedroom condominium in La Veleta,
Right.
I would feel good. Okay, so let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So the idea of the ecosystem is to start talking with the communities you remember. We go with intentional communities, with big ideas,
Right.
with changing the world, with putting people together.
Right.
We have seen this last year how difficult it is, how tough it is,
Yeah.
and how difficult it is to just start small. Because all these people come together after a pandemic, after big ideas. So it's, you know, it's like everything is boiling. So
Right.
it's very difficult to
Right.
to go back to something little rustic, you know. So first, housing. So the idea is having what actually in one of the presentation of Travelers I did like a lot, Alegría.
Yeah.
Alegría in Costa Rica.
Kara, shout out Kara
What are we
out there.
doing? We do land-based living community.
Right.
So this is not pretentious. Land-based living community. It means a community of people that want to be on a land and just live.
Right. And
So
so I've
we-
seen a lot of successful cases of this where people find land and they build one central space on this land, a shared space, a central palapa and a garden, for example, or a school and a ceremonial space. And around this shared space that the community came together to build, people begin to construct houses around this. And this is the process, I would say, of starting small and iterating into bigger versions of a full-fledged 150 person community.
Exactly. Exactly, because finally, community is, we talk about a lot, but you know, we know cities, we know Playa del Carmen, we know Tulum.
Right.
You know, a community is just a city. When the community goes well and developed,
Right.
it becomes a city.
It eventually becomes a city.
So here, starting the first lesson is at one point, you know, focus on housing.
Right, so let's start on structures. This is the first ecosystem of
Yeah, but
functionality.
it's also a just kind of intention, you know,
Right.
how you can say, okay, my focus now is to have a house.
Right, so let's practical application. We have a piece of land, one of these magical pieces of land that you've been protecting. What's the first thing, structure-wise, right? We cut roads into the space. What's the first thing that you would consider to build, right? Unlimited resources. All the people in this room have some money and are ready to move. What would be your thought to be the first? Everyone else can chime in as well. What would be the first thing that you would build on this 20 hectare, 30 hectare piece of land?
Obviously the houses.
Houses
But
first.
the land,
Okay.
you don't have it. Because if you
Right.
start by the question is when, in a project, at what point
Yeah.
the community start getting control. You know, because we are always
Right.
always struggling.
Right.
We say, "Wow, this is what great community! This is a community." So if it's too much of a community, you know, it's look like hippies. Everybody eating at the same table.
Okay, that's
everybody going to the house of the other one. It's a
Right.
style,
Right.
but it's not the style of having your house
What people are used to.
close to a community. I'm
Right.
just playing with the words.
Right. And
Because
so this,
when you are in your lot with your own house,
Right.
it's your house. The
Right.
community is not in your house, in your lot. The community is just here.
this seems to be the style of community that we are really moving towards. This concept of live alone together. You have
Exactly.
your own house and your delineated border, which is your property and your space. And then you are neighboring other conscious, awesome humans like the ones in this room and the ones tuning in that are interested in sharing some parts of the responsibilities and the benefits of this property.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
or never do it, because
Right.
at one point you can have a community with 100 houses
Right.
and have 100 people living in 18 houses,
Right.
and being the people that
The
love
core,
community
right.
and build all the communal and the collective things.
Right.
And you still have the other guy that have built the house, that have bought the land,
Right.
that have contributed in the economic ecosystem,
Right.
and that allows this community to have the resources to create the collective. So it's a little bit like this.
I like the idea of building houses first so the community can move in together. My first approach would be to build a central palapa, basically, to build a community space for people to come together, for the community to form as a group of people, you know, as a community in the sense, and to also hold activations, hold events to actually move to the land while also generating income. Also do events, gatherings, ceremonies, all the things we can do in a central palapa, right? Like creating a space that inspires people to come and move to the land and build around, basically.
This is how Alegria is doing it, right? We had some pretty good conversations with Kara, who we met at Alegria, the partner there, and they have a giant central palapa, and this is where they're hosting their workshops, their meetings, and starting to create work in the garden from there.
Yeah.
Most of their lots are sold, and they're just starting to build.
But you know, this palapa,
Yeah,
if we talk about legally speaking, this
Right.
palapa is a common part of the Condominio Alegria,
right.
which, do you remember our discussion about Cuyabe, for example?
Yeah,
You know, the place, supposedly the cenote, the palapas at Cuyabe, they do not belong to the collective, legally
Right,
speaking.
right,
In
right.
Alegria, they do.
they belong to the collective, right?
They belong to the collective. You cannot move the palapa, you cannot do one or two things.
Right.
You have to vote, and that's, so there is, I mean, there are a couple of things. First, when you do the thing, at what time to do it?
Right.
Is it
The- you mean-
productive
you
to do
mean-
everything at the same time?
Right, right,
Or we can play with time.
right.
You know, you can just say, okay, let's build a land-based community just for live.
And so sometimes there's a
And
transition.
then after
I
you think,
right.
after,
Yeah.
when you have the people, when you have the neighbors, let's call them the neighbors,
Neighbors, yeah.
okay? Between the neighbors, you say, okay, now, okay, we need a school, we need a hospital, we need a
Right.
movie picture theater.
Right, right.
And then you see how the community is eager to just do it, building, use it.
Right, right.
At that moment, you know, what I think doesn't work right now is when a developer
Right.
think the needs of a community. The developer is here to develop.
Right.
And it's nice. We need leaders, we need people that
Right,
buy the
right,
land, that
right.
do
The people to break
but-
the ground.
But the problem of the developer, because he's a company, it doesn't, generally they don't stop to want to make money. A company is easy to start, a company
Right.
is very, very difficult to stop.
Yeah.
You cannot. It's a movement, because if you stop it, you kill it. So the entrepreneurs cannot do that. It's like
Right, right,
you
right.
can't do it.
Well, so there's a really cool model that we've seen recently. Jules, you remember the name of this project that man, who's the guy we talked to, small Asian man?
Yeah,
Neil.
Neil.
In Michigan.
Yeah, in Michigan, there's this project where a group of investors purchased the property, and from the beginning, the agreement was that they would get bought out by
Yeah.
the future community members.
Yeah, that's a financing
Right.
model.
Right.
But here, I mean, the cost of the land being not so elevated,
Right.
you know, unless you go in big thing, you want a big cenotes,
Right, right.
so it's a model. So if we come back to this, because and the community, at a point there is the problem of business,
Right.
and
This is the economy
the problem of
ecosystem.
resources.
Right.
When you put the people of a community, you will see how many people want to be in the community just to live there
Right.
and to have an impact and to share the social links.
Right.
but you will see that a part of them actually want to leave from the community.
Right, they'll be nomads. They'll be there for a season and leave.
Yeah, but
For
see,
example.
no, I'm talking about any type. Any type. If when we form a community, people that are studying a community, and you have people, for example, that have money,
Right.
they're ready to invest, and you have people they don't have money. They say, "Wow, great, life in community, great, okay,"
Right.
but you know they can't buy land because they just don't have the investment capacity.
Right.
So at that point, it is important to talk because most of these people they are not actually the digital nomad part. That's
Right.
why I was talking about, you know, in my project, I want to introduce digital nomad more
Right.
because digital nomadism now is a fact.
Right.
There are lots.
Right.
They make a living. They have money.
Right.
They have many things,
Right.
and they lack of many things too because
Like
they are not
commitment.
so happy. They lost the social link. They don't
Right,
have
right,
communities,
right.
and they, you know, they are like ripe. They are low-hanging fruits to bring into a community
Right.
to have people that still are in a move,
Right.
that still can be in a community 1 month to 4 months per
Right.
year. They can contribute, and it's important to have these people because I think that
Right.
humans are not meant to be sedentary.
To get these people, you need to have the land and structures already that they come in and just turnkey service pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah. Please. Please.
What they think it's what you talk about the having a palapa. It's more a place that you, of course, you need because you need like a kind of workshop.
Activities.
To store some things. Imagine you're going in the middle of the jungle. When you start constructing, you need a place to sleep because the worker must sleep after the
Right.
construction.
Right.
You must have gated water. You must have some useful tools that you need in the jungle. You know, it's like a place in where you can a kitchen to cook.
Right.
It's like I think it's necessary. It's like the first things.
Okay,
to
so I'm
do
gonna
is,
add these to the
define,
list. Yeah.
A central place to run.
I'm adding. So we are making a list for everyone out there. We have made an outline of this entire workshop series. Every one of the workshops and what all of the guest speakers and masterminds shared with us, we have shared a list of all of the topics, special links, and things to think about. We'll be sharing all of this through our Instagram channel a bit later on. So like you said, first we need to create the space for creation to happen. This is places for the workers and the teams to be on the land, workshop areas for them to be working, and of course a kitchen.
To set up your antenna, to
Right.
connect your internet.
Right,
you know,
right,
so
right.
You have Wi-Fi in the region where you're working,
Right.
connected.
And at the same time, when you start this community, you can start growing trees, food, basically. You know,
Right.
Start having your own resources.
So I'll be referring to a bunch of things that we've been encountering along all of these topics, right? Like how we refer to Alegria, or we refer to this project in
Common
Michigan.
grounds.
Huh?
Common grounds.
Common Grounds was the name of it, right? Also, right, this concept of growing food first. Food just takes time,
Right
right?
away, like.
And this is
you
one of
buy
the
the
beautiful
land.
things happening at Mother Tree.
Yeah.
Before anything was built, before just basic roads were in, he was already putting food in the ground. So when the first people come into the property, there's going to be a food forest going on. And that's really exciting to see.
Definitely.
I'm taking this stuff down. Manu is our lead tinkerer and engineer brain. He can build anything, this man. He can see things and walk them through execution to the point of use. So all of his feedback is super integral in us understanding, right? My first question to you was, what do we build first? Even before we think about that question, we should be thinking about the infrastructure to be able to do this. So I'm really grateful you brought that up, Manu. It's something that is easily forgotten in the process, but this is from 0 to point 1. This
No,
step.
because
Yeah.
I am a constructor, so
Right,
I know
right, right.
the first thing what I do
Yeah,
when
yeah,
I
it's
have to do
beautiful,
something.
man. I'm happy you brought this angle in. Let me introduce your team. Right.
And I think a clear process that you have to go through when you think about these things is first why.
Right.
What's the why of what we're doing?
Right. The why. Okay.
The next thing you have to do is what do we need to do to make the why a reality? Then
The how.
most people would
This
go
is
to
the how.
most people would go to the who.
Right.
But you need to go to the how. How do we want to come across? How do we want to be presented? How do we want to be thought about? Now, how do we want to do it? Then you can start to think about the who. What happens oftentimes is they get reversed because you've got some people who, hey, I've got some land and yeah, I've got some money and yeah, I'm going to put this together, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you've got to go
this
why, what, how, and how is a broad subject,
Right.
and then you go to the who.
Okay.
And I don't mean the British band.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Of course,
cool.
they might be interested.
If you don't mind me asking, what is your background? What space are you in? How are you drawn to this community topic?
I work with companies to make them more human.
Okay, beautiful.
So what I do is I'm in the organizational dynamic space. So what are the dynamics of an organization or a group of people or a tribe that makes them work? What are the elements
Right.
that contribute to the success of an organization?
Okay, cool. I imagine you have a playbook of like things that create certain scenarios.
Many.
Yeah, I imagine. Okay, I would love to look through this. Cool, great to meet you, man. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Okay, so so this is the pre-construction ecosystem. Pre-construction, we got to define our why, our how, our what, and our who's. Right. Once we've kind of established that, we begin with the concept of construction. But even before construction, it's pre-construction and these topics. Living spaces, kitchens, basic systems. And then we go to the first construction, right, which is, we discussed
Okay,
two things, housing or shared space, right,
Right now, let's come back to the line of the ecosystem.
right, hit it,
Housing, we talk about nomads,
yes,
and my background is incubator,
yeah,
and
love it.
I like to create and incubate.
Right.
So, but for all these things about community, about ethic of the land, about everything that we said, I think, or at least my work right now is to do that. I want to do everything like I used to do it with companies,
right,
with corporations,
Mhm.
but now I want to do it with collective,
there you go.
which basically
About evolution, Jean-Luc.
eventually something that is very well known in this land of Mexico,
Right.
that's called cooperativas.
Yeah,
Today, if you take in tourism, the best good tour agents and stuff like that with local people that works the best are the cooperativas, the
Yeah.
cooperative, the co-op of people working, whatever fishermen, whatever guides,
right,
whatever everything, and in all part of the world. We have to remember that now, in terms of champagne sales in the world and in France, one cooperative sells more bottle of champagne that the big houses known for champagne, Tétinger or
Wow.
Clicquot, just because one guy decided to regroup under a cooperative,
right,
more than 150 owners of little piece of land of Champagne,
Came
they were
together.
making their own wine.
right.
Uh,
And so the idea here is a fundamental of regeneration, collaborative over competitive.
yeah, it's create a legal frame that's called a cooperative. It's a form of organization
Yeah.
that looks like a company,
Mm-hmm.
but there is no capital.
Okay.
So the poor can create the best,
Yeah, right.
and a poor or rich can be the same because it's one man, one vote.
Right, right.
One man or women, excuse me,
mhm,
but it's,
mhm.
so that's cooperative. The co-op, all the people forming the co-op,
Right.
vote for the board
Yeah.
and the president.
Mm-hmm.
But from one day to another, they can meet and
Change.
vote everybody out.
Right. And this
And the business generated is owned by everybody because
Yeah.
there is no capital. It's like imagine everybody know Uber. It's like imagine Uber
Yeah.
without the existence of the company.
Right.
Because now the intelligence of Uber obviously was the platform
Right.
and all the marketing things. But this platform and all this marketing thing could have been built
Created by everybody.
by all the chauffeurs
Right.
that would go together. They could have, by magic,
Right.
voted a guy as
Decision maker.
bright
Right.
as the guy that made Uber and designed the platform, which actually Google was in the beginning. So it was
Right.
all the Google infrastructure that
Right,
actually
right.
designed the platform, and Google make a lot of things with some others. So that would have been possible,
Right.
and Uber would be a company with no capital
Right.
and owned by all the guys that were driving Uber.
Right, and so this is exactly what we are working on right now. We've been on a few calls these last couple of weeks since Tribalize, a co-op concept to create a platform that facilitates the creation of communities, right? This ecosystem, which is where my brain is completely right now.
But
Uh-huh.
so that's part of what we want to do is,
Right.
is
For a physical
definitely
place.
now going a little more. Actually, we remember the first meeting were together with Nathan,
Yeah.
with Nate.
Yeah.
We had the co-op thing. You remember?
Yeah.
So now, yeah, we want to be a little more focused on the co-op
Okay.
concept,
Mhm.
and second, we will start to work on some other, like this summer, because summer is very special
Yeah.
here. It's vacation,
Mhm,
it's-
mhm.
so we're gonna work on another vertical, not like building community land, but more in the artistic.
Cool.
In the artistic arena.
Right.
We will work until December
Okay.
on setting up a kind of a campus
Cool.
for singing and performing arts
Nice. Where?
in the campus.
Nice.
So we will use the summer to start, and it's the same thing
Right.
because the artists, the singers, the guys that make videos, you know, it's the same thing. There are many here. There is an offer, non very professional offer.
Right.
There is a lot of demand from the hotels,
Right.
and there is opportunities for a great agent company.
Right.
You
right.
know, in
To
the
create a
in the
successful
music
collective.
world,
Right.
you know, all the artists and the singers, they hate the agents because they take 10%.
Right, because it's a very
and
vertical
they hate
structure.
the labels and they
Right.
hate the music. So
Right.
it's always same thing with Uber and the driver.
Right.
At one moment,
Mhm.
the people that make the thing, you know, it started with Karl Marx, with
Right.
the Capital.
Uh-huh.
It's, you know, what is the value of money? What is the value of the work?
Mhm.
It's a little bit communist,
Right.
but now this is it. It's
And so how do we
it-
apply
I
this?
don't call that. I call that conscious capitalism.
Conscious capital. Well, I mean, it's fair, right? How to make money consciously. But how do we apply this to a physical space? So there's different models, right? And this I consider to be the where is this? The social ecosystem, right? How do we all come together to accomplish the goal of building out a piece of land? Most structures, like you said, require this pioneer, the first person or first couple of people who go, okay, we found this piece of land, let's go down on it, let's buy it, let's get it, let's put it into our agenda and make it available for people to participate in, right? The following steps are, I think, the steps that we're talking about. Does that main group of people keep ownership of the land, or as people buy into it, is it subdivided into a condominium association, for example?
Yeah, whatever is condominium or shares of the company or DAOs or DHOs or
Right,
NFT.
right.
I mean, it's all coming to the same thing. You know, who will owns the value of the whole?
Right,
Is it what is collective, what is personal?
right, right.
So that's the first thing. And I think to go fast, you know, I would like to start with the housing
Right.
because everybody when they have the beginning of the money, they put it in their house.
Right, because it's their
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Okay,
Makes sense.
and you can actually put your money in your house, and you feel good because it's been like this for
Right.
you know millennials. And at the same time, if you put this in your house, which
Right.
is basically your lot, and you build a house, but at the same time with this money that you put here, that same money helps you to buy a bigger piece of land.
Right.
So that's the way I would start. I wouldn't even talk. You know, yes, you could do a kind of you curate the people.
Right.
You can always say, okay, we're going to have some rules. And then you say, no, guy, I don't sell you the land because you don't. But this, you know, people goes, I'm here for 40 years. Now I'm talking to like two generations of people, and sometimes you have the parents that are obnoxious. You would have said, you know what, I don't want to see you get.
Right.
But their kids, because the parents are obnoxious and unconscious, the kids, they are the best.
Right.
They're ready to, because they've been raised.
Right.
And they're the rebel. They say, fuck my
Yeah,
daddy, that was
yeah.
so pain in the ass. I will do exactly the contrary. And the guy is full of energy. So this question of saying, okay, you go through this, are you good for community? Do I sell you? Well, I'm not so, just, there is something in common. There is the lots. Things are clear.
Right.
In the model, when you sell the lot
Right.
or when you buy the lot, whatever, that's going to be enough money to buy this at the same time.
Right.
But you don't define it.
Okay.
Just the land will be there.
Right.
So you could even like mimic a normal development.
Right.
Look, buy this, and without even saying that with this money of everybody,
Right.
you would you actually with this money we're gonna buy
3 more lots, and then expand and expand and expand.
we buy more,
Right.
and from the very beginning, the ownership must be clear.
Yeah.
The common thing, is it owned by the collective or by who is it owned? And then work when we talk about the money,
Right.
because all this place, the place remaining, will be used for collective projects,
Yeah.
the big palapa, etc. But that's small.
Right.
With 2 hectares, you can,
Right.
and then you're gonna have like another 10 hectares or 20 hectares. Many people want to use that to create what you don't have
Right. So I'm gonna
on the
interject.
community. If
I'm
you
gonna
go to
interject.
Kouyabe,
Right.
if you go to Kouyabe, you need a cafeteria, you need a workshop, you need a guy that make breads, because you won't make 80 kilometers to buy a
Right,
croissant for your breakfast.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So
I'm gonna interject here. So here we are observing what an ecosystem really is. We start the discussion of the human ecosystem, right? Societal ecosystem. How we agree, how we decide, governance things. This is obviously very much affecting how we are going to use the land, how we will make decisions on land, and how we will be building infrastructure based on this human piece. And now this all joins in with the next piece of ecosystem that you brought up, which is the economy piece. This
Exactly.
is something I definitely want to pick your brain on in
Okay.
these next couple of minutes. The economy of a place, right? We build a central, let's say, a workshop. And in this workshop, people are creating awesome things, like little sculptures of wood. What if these little sculptures of wood become super famous and very expensive? Is it fair for the community to want a piece of that income?
of course,
Is it fair for the contributors to ask for a piece of this? And these are topics of the economic ecosystem that we want to discuss.
there is a very
Uh-huh.
simple way
Right.
that's called the concession.
Cool.
Okay, that is used in government or in company, but in government. I mean, Shelha, Shkaret Group,
Right.
they have this beautiful land where they built Shkaret, the first one.
Yeah.
And then now when they couldn't buy the beautiful Caleta here that became Shelha,
Yeah.
so they negotiated a concession with the government. So they don't own the land.
Right.
Playa Papaya project,
Yeah.
this beautiful,
Right.
huge,
1 kilometer.
they never
beachfront.
bought it. They never
Oh,
bought it.
not
It's a
purchased.
concession.
Oh wow. It's
So
what,
everything what Papaya
number of
Playa,
years of like title. Or
I
what?
think there are 20 years.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool. That's good to know.
But they don't buy it because
Right.
it was too big, and there were no beach, there were rocks. So at one point the municipio and the owner, they say, okay, it's a good approach. But that is very positive. It means look what these guys are doing, and they didn't never buy the land. So
Right.
the strength is in the business,
Right. Right.
in creating a business, not the land. So
This is exactly what we're doing at Sanctuary Home, right? Sanctuary Home is a rental space where we are creating a regenerative community experience. This allows for the low bar of entry with capital to have the land and to begin building infrastructure and allowing use of the land, which is one of the strategies that can really help give people an easier entry point. right, than having to put all the money up for ownership of a expensive piece of property.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So in terms of business, you know, well, if we look at Shkaret Group and Shelha, you say, okay, Shelha, first they squeezed a little bit the thing because in the contract of concession it was never said that they would have the right to not let the people go to the Caleta, that they
Right.
would have to pay $100 to access
Right.
this beauty. But they closed everything, they put it a one-day pass,
Full theme
and it's
park.
all inclusive.
Right, right.
That they didn't do it in the other things because they had artistics.
Yeah.
So, but here, what is important is that the community as the collective, you know, when you see people, the community say, okay, I want to run the swimming pool.
Right.
You know, after everybody, you know, had 25 different conflicts about the shape of the pool, the hours of the pool. Do you have the right to go after 7?
Right.
Do you have the right to go naked?
Right,
Do you have the
right.
right to go topless? And what about the kids? You know, you cannot put a community all together around the pool. I can tell you.
You need multiple pools.
You can write a book like that, the rules of a pool.
Multiple pools. I'm gonna add this to the note. Definitely create multiple pools.
That was the joke about the pool. But
It's a good one.
how you resolve that? Because honestly, doing globally, it's very difficult. How you resolve? One guy will come and you say, you know me, I was running
Fortune
a
500
resort
company,
for
right.
20 years, and I know that the pool, we have this problem. Okay, you what? Do you want to be the entrepreneur to run the pool community? We give you a concession.
Okay,
Okay?
right.
Everybody at the community, if they want to go to the pool, they will take a membership. They will pay
Okay.
$5 per month
Cool,
to
concessions.
access.
Okay, that's
So
cool.
a concession, and you mimic actually the real life.
That's how it
And then
goes.
eventually your community will become a real city where
Right.
you have some exchange. And as long as you say inside the community, you are starting building a circular economy that could be really cool.
Right.
Because then you can start by saying, you know what? This pool, only the people from the community can come. And then
Right.
you add some rules about people from external,
Visitors
you
and
know,
guests, yeah.
how the rules, but you have one guy in charge, it's his business.
Right.
He will do it, he will make it because
He owns
because
the
you cannot
responsibility.
run a business
Right.
and do complex thing,
Right.
spending your time discussing with 25 people.
And so this is the beautiful thing of the
But
concept.
the pool will
yeah,
always be the property of the collective.
right.
And
of the
that will
collective,
be
yeah.
the big difference between any of the other pool here. That's the thing.
Right. And so this also helps mitigate the risk of a bottleneck, right? When there's one person or one group of people making all the decisions and responsible for all of the things, the houses, the sustainable systems, the pool, the tennis court, the yoga shala, the ceremony space, it slows down the process. Whereas if they open up and allow others from the external, still being community members, to come in and have a very clear agreement of concession. This is a cool word. We're gonna
Yeah,
look,
I mean,
look it up a lot
concession,
more.
you know,
yeah.
it's a way
Yeah.
to find somebody that say, I'm going to run a business. I'm
Right.
doing a startup.
Right.
I'm like, I will make a pool club. How do you call that? Clubhouse.
Right.
I will build a clubhouse like you see everywhere, except that you know he has a concession, so it will. And now it's the operations are not anymore a subject with the community,
Right.
but the community know that every month the collective will get the money.
Right.
So it's, and at one point, if you do the concession, if something wrong, the community can say, okay, Article 3, now this is that, you leave and we find another
Right.
thing. That's
take over
one
the-
thing. And in terms of also of all these I would say different businesses, you can do it with real business,
Right.
or you can do it with cooperatives.
Yeah.
So now that you show that the ownership of the land keeps in the collective,
Right.
at one moment you will say, okay, now for certain activities, and that will happen, now we get out of the pool and we come to the school.
Right.
For the school, one, Montessori, this,
Green school,
green school. So this here, obviously, it's great to give a concession to the school,
Okay.
not to like a normal company or group of people, but maybe to a co-op or an association around education.
Right.
You see what I mean? So it's so you have actually all the levels to make it work, but it's still, and honestly, at one point, if we go for community, we have to have the guts to go to
Right.
take the risk
Right.
that things don't work, that it's dirty because the community didn't do the job like an entrepreneur.
Right.
Because
right.
it's a common ground. It's very difficult.
Right. It's sometimes
it's like this.
in
but-
an implicit organization where like we expect each other to do things. It's not as successful as when we explicitly assign you're responsible for the pool, you're the tennis court, you're the houses in the front, and you're the houses in the back. So again, this becomes part of how the economy ecosystem only thrives when it's in conjunction with the social ecosystem and the financial.
This is the point I would say, and separating the things.
Yeah.
If you don't separate and you say everything as a global,
Okay.
we a rule.
Okay.
Nothing really done.
And there,
Everybody has their
and
own
the
say.
people will say, oof, oof. There, sandwich, they close at 8. No, I like at 9. I'm not happy. The pool, that. In communities, all the people that are done with communities, because they say there is too many rules.
Too many rules, right?
Now you do rules are rules anymore. They are transactions.
Explain a little more.
Because you go and you're gonna pay $5 per month to be member of the rules.
Right.
You say, okay, I pay $5 per month, and the guy said the pool is open until 5,
Right.
and you say, you know what? I don't want to be member. If the pool is
Right,
not open
right.
until 9,
Okay, so you get to decide what
you
rule
have a
structures you're a part
because
of.
in the
Okay, that's
community
cool.
with rules, if people start discussing the rules, they fight bad because it's
Right.
questions, metaphysical questions.
Right, right.
Now, if it's a question of at what time, it's simple.
Yeah.
So the guy will make his calculation and say, listen, if I have to keep open until 10 p.m., well, the membership needs to be not $5 but 10.
Right.
Or I have to do a basic and a
plus
golden
membership.
and a silver,
Right, right.
etc., which is fine
That's
because
cool.
everybody used to do this type of thing. So,
Right.
so,
So,
so the thing is a little. Yeah, we come from a very, I would say, complex time with the pandemic, the travel, and everything.
right.
But we have a background, and many people know how to do a lot of things. So we use the pendulum. I think during the pandemic I was like, from salvage to, then we would go like this, and then we have to come back in the center
Right.
to also not trying to create the new world from scratch,
Right.
because we know a lot of things that could work very well with the new world,
Right.
with a little more conscious, a little more, I
little
like
more
the
strategy.
Mexican that say todo con medida,
Right.
todo
right.
con medida.
And
you
so
know.
a big part of this, right? I'm happy you bring this term up, New World, right? New Earth. A word that originally to me turned me off a little bit. It felt a little bit dramatic and like, oh, we're recreating, and I felt it was wasted effort. And I
Well,
agree.
I still have problem with the terminology,
Right. And so I've
especially when the first time the guy talked to you and he look at you and he say, I'm from the new world and you're from the old one.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you
yeah,
don't
right.
belong to the new world.
yeah.
Bye,
Yeah,
ciao.
yeah. This is
So then
this
he
is
said,
already not.
We're not in a good shape.
Right. This is.
I don't know
already-
if I want to join the new world. I may stay in the old world.
Yeah. That is already not, let's say, this concept of New Earth, which is collaborative over competitive, right? All accepting over in-group out-grouping, right? That sounds like in-group out-grouping.
It's all, yeah.
And so part And so part of this big step is integrating the granddaddy of all ecosystems, which is the environment, right? We've talked about human ecosystem, legal ecosystem, economic ecosystem, and structural ecosystem. We are now talking about environmental ecosystem and what that means, right? Steward of the land. This is the title that when you introduced yourself to me as this, I knew there was going to be something magical to connect between us. Steward of the land, right? To protect the environment and do these things. What do you consider the main components in a community that tie it and create this environmental ecosystem within the community, right? Obviously, sustainable systems. How do we treat our waters? How do we treat our waste? How do we collect our energy and these things? Anything specific that you are really passionate about in the way that you develop a community or develop a space and take the ecosystem into consideration? Environment stuff. What is the most important things for you?
First thing,
right?
Economic and monetary speculation on land.
Yeah.
Honestly, that, we have to forget it for a moment.
Right.
So
right.
that-
not prioritize the dollar over all the other beautiful things that are out
No,
there, which is what usually
yes,
happens.
but that's the big problem with the land.
Right.
That's the big problem. Half of the people that come here after I spent 15 years doing everything by hand and planting the tree and
Right.
they look at me, how long you do that? 10 years, 15 years? And then I see and they tell me, but oh, this land, you probably bought that $20,000 and now it's worth $1 million.
Right. Right.
I say, yeah, probably. But, people think that. So, for many reasons, because it's difficult to have a beautiful place, and honestly, it's nice, because even after all this life of apego al dinero,
Right.
we still recognize that the space and the beauty of nature and a nice construction is still the best value in the world.
Right.
But let's stop using the land to make our living.
Right.
If you
Okay.
want to become rich, okay, go rich.
Right.
Do like Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, do business. Don't buy land, resell land, buy land, destroy it, resell.
Right.
I mean, that's not good. If most of the people would say, you know what, it's kind of a religious thing. It's okay, you don't eat pork, okay, I don't speculate with land.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to do.
It's beautiful,
And with
right.
I tell
The
you,
movement
I'm
is
not
going
done
in
yet.
this direction, right.
I still have the problem because
Right.
I bought the land, because I put money, because so it's not obvious.
Right.
And now I have this nice thing about the Trimayad I want to pass on a piece of land.
Right.
And then honestly, I want to make them fucking pay
Yeah,
the
right.
value of the land.
Right,
Which so
right.
I'm saying that, but I don't do
course,
it.
of
I
course.
didn't reach this this Zen level
Yeah,
like
yeah. Well,
like a
sometimes
Dalai Lama type. But we have to try at least, we have to try at least.
Okay. Right. So I think this is a really strong point of how we take the environmental ecosystem into account with a project like this. That we don't objectify the land, right? And the movement, I say, is coming because people are waking up to this. It's happened with society over time. First, we objectified humans, right? The Holocaust, slavery, all of these things objectified humans. We've grown from that. In this phase, we are now realizing that we shouldn't be objectifying animals. Many people we meet are vegetarian, vegan, because they disagree with the concept of using an animal as a product to make money. It's cruel and unjust, right? This evolution happens, as I'm hoping, into paying more attention to things that don't ask for the help, like nature.
Yeah. And also, the second thing
Right.
is the Mexican todo con medida.
Just
Is
everything
you can
in-
respect the
with
land, you
measurement,
can
yeah.
destroy, you look, but don't be like religious about it. Yeah,
Right.
we know it's you know, when you build something, you want to attract the people. We're in nature, so we do this big shapes, bio construction.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
you know, I'm not a constructor. I'm really bad in that. You know, this is the house I bought the first time I was in the middle of the jungle. I lived here 4 years.
This house.
Oh, this house
Right.
cost me $10,000 at
How
that
much is
time.
this house to build right now? Just what would
To
be
build
your
a house
estimate?
like that
This
right now?
exact one. It's 2 bedrooms.
I don't know. It's 2 bedroom, 3 master. I don't know right now. $100,000.
100,000. Okay.
Not even less.
Wow,
For what?
that's pretty good to build this house.
Or a house like this with
around
2 or 3 rooms.
With permits
It-
or without?
Ballpark.
Huh?
With permits or without?
Let's go without right now. Let's
No,
just
the
go
permit
labor.
is not expensive. It's
Isn't it?
no,
Really?
it's not expensive. It's a pain,
now
but
we
it,
know the right guy.
Following
the rules.
the rules.
Right, well, that's the thing.
Ah, yeah, but we do only legal things here.
Right, but that's you.
50.
So that's
No,
Yeah.
with only materials and hand job, I don't think more than $25,000.
A house like
Yeah,
this.
the material. No, I'm talking building. Now,
Everything.
now the thing is very interesting in the community and the ecosystem.
Right.
If you can organize the ecosystem to actually, within the community, be able to build, to design, build the house,
Right.
then your cost anyway will be half of buying any type of house.
Right.
because there would be a company to build a house, and half of all the costs are financial, insurance, and profit.
Right.
So any house you see on the market for $500,000
Half of that money
for
goes
to
those.
sell like new,
Right.
you know that if you do it yourself, I mean it will be 220,
Right. At least
not 500.
Probably 50. Yeah.
Now, to do it yourself is complex.
Right.
But if within the community and the system we have the knowledge and we have shared the knowledge,
Right.
that was the concept of the living lab, etc.,
Mhm.
then progressively you start to reach that
Yeah.
point
Okay.
to use already model or already done.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing is also just doing it, you know, you don't want to do it with with this, put the glasses, the eye, the form, the this.
Yeah.
You want to look, you know, this is what I was capable of doing it
Right.
17 years ago.
Yeah, you did a good
I mean,
job.
it's, you know,
It's rocking right now.
it-
Yeah.
it-
Keep working.
and honestly, after everything we did, when I can, I come here.
This is your
and I
favorite-
spend
this is
here
your
3
favorite
days.
one, yeah.
This is the place. Yeah, because it's cool.
Yeah.
And I had to fight because I was married. You know, I didn't want to. Now I have a fridge and a normal stove. I didn't want to have stove.
Yeah.
I had the little flat like when I was a kid in
Yeah.
Morocco
Okay.
because you know I was feeling young.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's, I mean, we start like this, and we always can change it. They all make it better, make it different.
Right.
It is true that all the project we've been working, you know, there is a lot, like it was still like oh, it's beautiful, the master plan, but you know, is this really necessary at the
Right.
beginning?
Right.
Because these projects are investor oriented, and if you
Right.
want to attract an investor,
You need to wow them. Right. Right.
you need to make like a page of Vogue or
Yeah, right.
whatever,
you need a good
you know,
one pager. You need a good deck. We know about this all day. One pagers
So
and
you have
decks.
to invent a story.
Right, right,
that,
right. You have to
know.
communicate the ecosystem to others.
So I would say I'm not against that,
Okay.
but just make it small, make it rustic, find a way to live and exchange and spend some time with the community in the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
And when there is a kind of stability, then you start the big thing.
Right.
But maybe the big, it's not, you know.
Right. It's always a good idea to start small and iterate as you build in responsibility and long term of projects.
And of course, for us at Paledora, we just went into the thing about incubating
Yeah.
and cooperative. One thing, and the retreat business.
Yeah.
We think that the retreat business is an excellent business
Right. Definitely.
for communities.
Mhm.
That a living community, you know, can basically finance everything if doing in the hospitality business,
Right.
but hospitality business, not hotels,
Okay.
retreats, because it's
Okay.
different. The hotel,
Right.
the
A hotel is a
the
room to sleep
reservation.
in. Right.
It is very complex because you don't master the level of people. You cannot stop. So you have to be very professional. That's why
Right.
the hotel group are very, because for a hotel to work,
Uh-huh.
it's business. Retreat, you can be very professional
Right.
for 1 week
Right.
and decide to sleep for the 2 next weeks.
Right.
You never can do that in a hotel.
There's also a major value add in selling a retreat, which is an experience. Something someone comes into and takes something away from, ideally, and brings it back home with them, over the hotel business, which is, here's your box and your bed, you can sleep, see you tomorrow. It's a totally different worlds, right? Here you're just
Exactly.
buying a thing versus here you're buying an experience. And so I think that's a strong takeaway, right? From your experience in Paledora, the retreat business, hospitality as a whole, for the economic ecosystem that can really power a community. All right, so we're almost at an hour now. We're going to have a guest speaker that'll be joining us at some point today, a founder of a community in Argentina as well. He'll be sharing a bit about ecosystems. Would you like to share anything else? We'll be doing a walkthrough of the Paledora Resort a bit later.
No, everything is fine.
I just want to
We
recap
don't
kind of
need-
the topics. I would like to know if anyone in the audience has any suggestions or topics. The main, right, we discussed a community as an ecosystem, this thriving bubble, let's call it. And to keep this bubble afloat, it is comprised of multiple little bubbles inside that all count on each other for space and support. Some of these bubbles on the inside that we discussed were the functionality bubble, right? Like, how does this place operate? Where do we store our files? Where do we store our tasks, our legal papers, all of these things? Right? Other topics of functionality are things like structural. Like, where do we live? Where are we going to spend time together? What are we going to build on the space? Other of these bubbles that we discussed are like the economic bubble. How does money come into this place, and how do we distribute this money? What are the things we're going to do to generate this money? Hospitality, time and time again, from conversations with you, really make me focus on it. And now observing the communities that have actually thrived and become long-standing communities versus places that didn't really have a model and ended up becoming only retreat centers at the end, because it's a process of doing it collectively. Missing this initial conversation of how do we do it correctly. So economy, if anyone has any ideas on that, would love to hear. Two other main systems are the social system, right? The human system, which we, that time and time again, we realize this social system, this human system is the most important piece. How do we all live together? How do we all work together? How do we all grow together and stay this way without coming to disagreements over the pool, right? First of all, you got to make multiple pools. I added that, it's in there. But other things like, how do we handle the money topic, right? And this is a perfect example of how the social bubble, how do we decide, affects everything. The economic bubble, right? How do we distribute money? Or the structural bubble, what do we build and how do we build it? And all of these other things, which again kind of puts the social bubble in the middle, because it kind of connects all of the other bubbles. We have a really beautiful map we'll share later. And that brings us to the final and main one, the environment bubble. Like, what is the environment A that we are stepping into, right? This is all jungle, and we're in the middle of the jungle right now. And how do we do our piece to take care of that bubble, right? To not only in our space, but also in the spaces around us, the people, the communities living around us that maybe aren't as conscious. How do we share that with them? I think these are all the main topics for the day. Does anyone have anything they would like to share about communities? Yeah, I would love to hear anything. Like community concepts, right? From a high level, at any level.
Very fundamentally, you gotta understand where you begin. And what you're talking about here, and I tend to make things very simple, but they're not easy.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about here is the intersection and relationship between strategy, structure, leadership style, culture, and the environment that all comes under. So you can't have groupthink and expect to come up with really good decisions all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What I used to say in boardrooms was, guys, just make a decision. They would be so scared to make a decision
Right.
because it would be the wrong decision.
Right.
And I would say, nobody's going to die.
Right.
Make another decision if that's the case.
Right.
But the intersection of strategy and structure, which is exactly what you're discussing here, and the elements of that are critical. So it's got to be thought out ahead of time. Our friend over here, Sonny, comes from a military background. They've thought of that hierarchy for a very long time.
Right, right.
And whether it works or not, that's how you're going to do it.
Right, right,
Right?
right. It's the
And
worst.
it might work, it might not work. For some people, it works fabulously. For some people, it doesn't work at all.
Right.
So when you look at the structure of things, is it organic? Is it divisional? Is there a hierarchical situation? You've got to figure out what you're going to do and then try that. And then if it works, you keep doing it.
Right.
And if it doesn't work, you do something else. And when you've got an environmental group of humans, when they're coming together in an environment like a jungle, you've got two separate environments. You've got the cultural environment, and you've got the physical, the selva, the jungle environment. So there are a number of things that you've got to get clarified expectations about in advance. So now we figured this out. Does it work? We have to close the pool at 5. Well, shit, nobody likes that. Well, we can't close the pool at 5.
Okay.
How do we change that? You need a system for that. You can't just say, I'm staying till 7.
Right,
Because
right.
that's when you start to get
Anarchy.
anarchy or conflict or
Right, right.
what's it called when everybody leaves? You know,
Right,
people
right.
leave.
Exode.
Exodus.
Exodus. Right,
Exodus.
Right, right. So the whole concept behind how you put these things together is critical.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when people come in and just say, let's do it. I've lived in communes.
Okay,
I
yeah.
lived in a pure commune. I lived in a kibbutz in Israel for a year.
Cool.
And that damn thing worked.
Yeah, right,
I mean,
right.
But there was a hierarchy.
Uh-huh.
Trust me. It was not, yeah,
Yeah.
it was not just do what you want to
Yeah,
do.
definitely not, man.
There
Because
was a
it's the same people that run the Israeli army, so you can relate.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it was pretty linear. And then when I first moved, I live in Colorado and I live here. When I first moved to Colorado, we moved in a small group of us and it was kind of a commune.
Yeah.
There was a main couple, one child, and 3 or 4 other people.
Okay,
And it was a commune.
right.
I mean, we all contributed. Any money we made, we kind of contributed back in. Well,
Right.
I was the only one who did that.
Okay.
But I mean, so there's
Okay,
a
you're
lot
invited
of
to
things,
ours.
there's a lot of things that you really need to think about and talk about
Right.
in advance.
Yeah.
When Jean-Luc comes along and he wants to do it on himself, he takes his background and he has thought about it and done it in advance. But trust me, he learned every single day how to do things,
Right.
and more important, how not to do things.
Right, right, right. This is
You got it.
experience. This is
Right.
experience,
Yeah.
right?
So clarified expectations, communication, discussion, it's very, very, very important. And it's oftentimes skipped over. It's like when you start a company, you've got the person who starts the company, I don't care if he's a poodle clipper or a brain surgeon.
Right.
He could be, he's the technician, he does the work. So then he breaks off from somebody else because I can do a better job and I don't want to work for anybody anymore.
Right.
So he goes and starts to get business, and the first person he hires, who do you think the first person he should hire is when he starts to get too busy to handle it all himself?
He's an operator,
So who should he hire?
a COO.
Okay, so management.
Right.
What typically happens in 90% of the time is they hire another technician. They hire another poodle clipper.
Ah, to do
They
more
hire
work.
another brain surgeon.
Right.
And they need to hire an operations guy,
Right,
management.
right.
So there you got 3 elements. You've got technician,
Mm-hmm.
you've got management, and you've got the entrepreneur. So the technician does the work, the management coordinates the work,
Right.
and the entrepreneur gets the work. So when you start out in a business like that, you're wearing 3 hats, and you have a lunatic for a boss. You, right? And it's
Yeah.
it's just crazy. So what people don't understand, and I'm glad to hear you answer that way, an operator, you need somebody who knows, whoa, 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 we can't take on anymore right now.
Right, right, right.
Right.
Someone who's that's their, like,
think
everything
that
they
way.
think about every day.
And,
Right.
And technicians, the doers, don't think that way.
Right.
They want to get out there and build a house.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any concrete, we don't have any tile, we
Yeah,
don't have
yeah,
any
yeah.
pipes, we don't have any electrical, we don't have any wires.
Right, they can just operate better when they have someone else thinking about that operations
Right,
role.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
totally. Infinite yes.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. That's a really good one, right? This is like the strategy, structure, leadership. What was it? Strategy, structure, leadership,
Culture.
culture. Okay, yeah, I put structure choice. I love structure. Okay, culture. Cool. Yeah, that as a whole is an ecosystem, right? The operations ecosystem of the
That's
space.
ecosystem.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's a really good one. I got some really good stuff there for you. Thank you.
There's more.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick your brain for the rest of the day. Well, does anyone have any other topics, questions, things they would love to share, things they would love to bring into this topic of communities? You know, we've been online for about an hour, 5 minutes now. Yeah, time to maybe go for a little tour, move our legs around. We will be streaming live on Instagram, sending individual stories of things we'll be doing moving forward, you guys, so you don't miss a thing. Anything else, anyone?
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, get it, Sonny.
Podemos pasar un micrófono
si quieres.
Yeah, we can just put this over
What
here.
is your thoughts about how do you guys approach because I'm endeavoring to do this in Belize as well, is to come from a place of stewardship instead of ownership.
Right.
And go into fractional ownership in the community instead of ownership. Because we're still, the way I'm seeing this, especially after, after I saw the presentation at Travelize,
Yeah.
one of the things that triggered me there was the fact that I'm watching, myself included, all these people moving into the different country.
Right,
They're forming a community,
right,
and they're setting up their Garden of Eden, if you may,
right.
and they're completely negating the fact that there's people living there, and they're not upgrading them at all. Like, it is like just
Right.
blowing me away
Right.
that you're not taking into consideration that you're building in a community in somebody else's country, now that you're calling your own,
Right.
right? You're building and building to the level of what you want to live, and right outside of the door, there's people that are living that has no running water, no nothing. Like,
right.
how do you drop into that and not include them? I mean, what about buying a couple extra bags of cement and give them a floor?
This
You
is
know
a
what I
really
mean?
good one, right?
So
Yeah.
it's like it's all we're doing is we're leaving the country and environment we live in to go into another because we don't like the rules there,
Right.
to come into another to make your own rules, but you're negating the fact that there's an ecosystem in place there that you're disrupting, and you're not taking into account the footprint, the carbon footprint, and the environmental footprint, not only with the environment as a whole, but also the physicality of humans there,
Right.
right? So how do you negotiate that part where you're coming from a place of stewardship?
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, we all running the program for ownership, right? I want to own this.
Yeah,
you
right,
know
of
what I mean?
course.
Like, this is the thing. You know, so what are your thoughts about
So-
coming from a place of stewardship, and instead of the community owning the land, people
Yeah.
coming on the land, they're coming from a place of fractional ownership, which you have ownership into the access, but not this piece where you go, well, this is mine, you need to get off my land,
Right,
and then
right.
you're selling it, and it's going to somebody else, and it's disrupting the community. Like, how do you?
A lot
How do you
of
play that, please?
projects we've seen are working with this concept of you're not buying this piece of land, you're buying a ticket as a membership
So back to the fractional ownership.
to protect, right, exactly.
Right,
To
right.
protect this piece of land, you can build on it, you can use it. That's one solution. There's other communities following kind of different protocol for how you actually live there, right? Only short-term rentals for 30-year contracts, kind of like the Ejido model, and they're just extending on that. It is a hurdle to kind of cross where traditional investors, especially even traditional people seeking to buy their house and build it, are looking to have this house forever to pass on to their kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's a fractional ownership, you're still doing that anyway. Because I
Right.
mean, because it's like Jean-Luc, he owns this and he decides, okay, I'm going to subdivide. Okay,
Right.
so then the subdivision of the land now comes with rules, right? That you have to follow, and then inevitably somebody's going to be circling that and want to do things this way or that way. So then you're running into the issue of
Right.
that. So for me, my thoughts is, and I have no experience in this at all, so I appreciate being here and listening to this, is to build from a place of stewardship.
Right.
purchasing the property and putting in a trust for perpetuity for this to happen, you know, and monetize it and like everything that you guys talking about to make sure that there's a regenerative financial structure that is supporting this long term. But kind of get away from this piece of everybody coming to own it, and then also, like for me, this is my big trigger for me, is what about the people that lives there? What about the people that live in that community that you're moving into?
Right.
Can we not upgrade them while we're there? Because then we're literally, I'm telling you how it is right now in Belize. There's an organization in Belize that came, a bunch of Americans and Canadians came, they built, they have their thing. Well, this is a vegan community. If you're not vegan, you can't even come in the door. The only people that comes through the gate is if you come in to deliver something there. So now, me as a Belizean and everybody else there, it's them and us. There's a separation. We're supposed to be building community.
Right, that's not an
becoming.
ecosystem.
It is not.
Right, it's siloed and not cool.
It is an ecosystem, but it
For them.
doesn't work.
No.
Right, okay.
I think to help with what you're saying is that if you change the word ownership to participation, it's going to help with a lot of it. But if we still constantly try to create ownership, fractional ownership, to get a fractional participation, we have less of that. When you look at conscious capitalism, as John Luke mentioned earlier, is one of the key components of conscious capitalism is involving the local community. Whole Foods brought that up because they wanted to work within their communities. Before they were a multi-billion-dollar organization, they wanted to work out, so they went out into the community and said, what would you like? What would you like to see? How would you like it to work? So that's how that works.
Yeah,
I think at
really-
the end of the day, it's about really creating this culture, right? We can talk about ownership and stewardship and fractional ownership and all of this for a long time, but at the end of the day, it's people living on land with other people, with the locals around it, and it's a felt, it's an experience, right? And we have to create this culture that embodies that. So you already build a beautiful bridge, like you're buying cement. Might as well ask your neighbors if they want the floor too, and pour some cement for them. Go and talk to them. Introduce yourself as humans, and create connections. Maybe create jobs within, or even invite them to live on the land with you. We had conversations about this, like while you're building on land with a Mayan population, for example. Why don't you just build a house for them too, and open a little stand for them so they can sell their honey or whatever they want to sell, and you're actually creating a real community around it. I think a lot of it comes back to really creating principles and guidelines and embodying them throughout the community and through strong space holders that take responsibility for that.
Yeah, and then the last
this.
piece I want to mention there is, I am saying this about getting cement and putting in cement floor, but the question is, did you ask them what they want?
Yeah,
right?
that's
I
what I
mean,
mean
my
by
idea of, hey, I would like to give you floor, it doesn't mean that that's what they want. They might go, well, heck, I want to be grounded,
Right,
I want to be
right,
grounded.
I want a floor.
Yeah, obviously you don't.
So over and over again, like there's 7 orphanages in Belize that I am endeavoring to help in long term. And one of the issues that they face all the time is they have people coming from all over the place, and they'll bring a backpack of toothpaste and toothbrush, and or pencils. And like I was talking to one of my cousins runs one of the orphanages there, and he's like, my kids' teeth are fine. I'm trying to feed them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So we don't even ask, we assume.
need, yeah.
So before we hop into that thing, what can we do to help you? Or what do you think to fix the whole problem? How do we fix the problem? One of the best advice I was ever given is, if you want to change something, you want to cause an effect in a family, go ask the
mother.
the mom or the wife or something, because they're the one, and even in community, they're the one at the end of the road. Think about it in your house, in your household with your father.
They're the
They went
operator
out to
usually.
work and bring the money in, but who gets to decide and how to stretch that last
Who
thing
runs
of
it?
butter
Right,
or
the
bread to make it
mama.
look done, right? So I say all this, but that part of that too is, we literally have to go and ask permission to
Right.
include off the land, but also with the people in there, and get their input in, and then endeavor to help them also, because remember, they're running their own paradigm as well, to let them see another side of it.
So what's the magic word there?
pretty please
Yes,
ask.
What's the magic word that you have to do? You said it 10 times.
Ask first.
Ask.
Yeah.
Ask, ask, ask. Don't assume you know anything. If you go into a community, Jean-Luc comes in here, I got some ideas about this, but he probably asked around. I would think so. I don't know, 20 years ago.
We actually started living in community. All the people that built that, they were living there. You know, the first client came, 6 years after we started. Because when we decided to do but yes, and we learn about, sometimes, yes, we don't ask because we project our
Right.
thing. And,
And sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you don't get it right.
Sometimes you just make a new decision afterward to make it better.
There you go.
So I have 3 direct points for the topics you brought up, right? Topic 1 was the topic of stewardship over ownership of land specifically. I'm a very deliverable or situation-based responder for learning. It's hard for me to just take out ideas out of a cloud of fluff. I enjoy to have specific examples that are working. And one specific example in this line of thought of stewardship over ownership is taking the land into account as one of the stakeholders of the project. So let's say we buy this piece of hectare, right? This hectare, 10 hectares, whatever it is. In the next 5 years, this land is probably going to go up in value. In the traditional markets, some money amount. That money amount, although let's say all of us are the owners of it, we should include an extra stakeholder in this pie, who is the land itself. Maybe with that extra land, we replant trees. Or potentially with that extra piece of profit that came in, we buy another piece of land that we buy only for conservation. I've seen this happen with a river, for example. The river became a stakeholder in all of the businesses that counted on that river for their income. And with the money that each business contributes to this pie, that is the river's income, you can call it, they implemented cleaning systems, dredging systems, all of the beautiful things that have kept this river thriving. And I consider that a pretty direct example of stewardship over ownership.
Where was that?
Somewhere in Europe, I can't remember the country right now. I'm having a little brain phallus, but
Very cool.
yeah, it was a cool concept. And these are concepts that are, again, how do we do it? Make the land a piece of the pie holder.
So the piece of pie holder gets
yeah.
the ROI goes
Exactly,
to do whatever
man,
it
exactly.
takes.
Because we are still
Beautiful, I
living
love
in
that.
this new earth concept. We're not starting from zero. We're taking the best pieces of the old world and growing on them, right? Iterating in improvement. So this is one of these solutions where we take that concept of ROI that people measure stuff in and bring it back to this conceptual side of stewardship. That's for the land piece. For the human piece, I'm an advocate of the term social enterprise, right? That we're creating a company that Jean-Luc says has zero income or zero. What was the word? Zero. I don't know the word. you said.
Participation.
Not participation, but you said, oh, it's a company that has zero profits or something. I don't remember what you said, but
I
this
don't know.
concept.
I'm like
Yeah.
I'm fan of zero.
Yeah, yeah,
Zero
yeah.
process for food.
Yeah.
Zero contamination for construction.
Yeah, net zero, man. Net positive, better.
Net zero. Yeah.
So the concept of a social enterprise, right?
Zero drama for women.
Yeah, for couples, for the idea here is to teach a man how to fish, right? Where as opposed to just saying, hey, we're buying concrete, let us throw a floor down for you. I'll talk about the asking piece first. But instead we say, hey, we will be building this in our space. We would love to invite you all to come to a workshop and learn how to do it. Put some hands-on practice. And if you're interested in that exchange process of us being grateful for being your neighbors and also any energy that you share here, we're happy to contribute some retribution in whatever you're interested in with the asking
So
concept.
you're going to the empowerment piece.
Right, the empowerment
Beautiful.
Well,
piece.
that's community.
Educating,
That's
teaching.
the whole community piece.
Right, because if
That's
my
why you
friends
have
are
to discuss
strong,
it. What's the structure? Is the structure I'm going to come in and tell you what to do? Is the structure I'm going to come in and ask you what you'd like?
And you have to be a full participant.
Yeah.
in this participatory process. And then the third piece of asking first. Man, I come from the tech space. And the companies that win, a lot of the times have no product. They're just out there asking questions. And based on these questions and some concept of what they want to do, they end up making the best application or software or whatever it is that they're building in the tech space. But it comes from direct asking questions, building for those questions, and then asking
More
like,
questions.
oh, did you really want this?
More
What does it
questions.
do? Right, these are the winners. Versus the startups that lose. that come in going, oh, I know what I need to build. This is what it's going to be, right? Based on my knowledge versus based on the knowledge of everyone that's going to be using their product.
Yeah, well,
Because at the end, we all have different, right?
it's the piece of constant change, right? Paradigm shift. I mean,
Right,
it's,
right,
it's
right.
the Blockbuster versus Netflix, right? Are you gonna change with time and keep asking in the community to be able to maneuver to make it even better? Because the one constant is change, right? We're all changing. We're all getting older. We're all, you know, having new pulls and new triggers and new places of happiness we're finding ourselves. So constantly shifting to that place it's beautiful.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
thank you.
I'm happy you brought this up. I actually added the strategy, structure, leadership, culture section. What's one word you would say for that ecosystem?
Organizational dynamics.
Organizational dynamics. Nice.
And when you ask, you have to ask another question after you ask. When people say something, you have to ask 3 words. Are you sure? Get them to think about it. Because people just might react, and you want a response instead of just a reaction. So, are you sure? Well, I don't know. Maybe over there instead of over there.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Okay, great. Yeah, we're done. I added organizational dynamics ecosystem, and I added the local indigenous ecosystem because that's a really strong one to
Can
consider.
I add something?
Yeah,
about-
please. Last statements,
about
everyone.
What
Last
you say
statements.
about getting things from the best things from the old board
Yeah.
and add to the new board. Okay, I will give you an example with each the last 5 topics I think
Yeah.
we were talking. Okay, Jean-Luc told about he said todo en su medida.
Right.
Okay, it's like
Everything with measure.
everything with measure.
Right.
It's a state what you need. Okay. A beautiful example of this is the daizugi technique that Japanese do to grow trees. What they do, when they want to cut a tree, instead of cutting the tree from the bottom and killing the tree and seeding more trees and waiting, it's like the complete cycle, maybe 20, 30 years until
Right.
the tree grows. What they do is just they cut some branches from the tree, you know, the bigger ones,
Yeah.
and let the new ones to grow again. You gain a lot of time because the tree now use all the energy. They don't need to make the roots go through the soil and find the water and everything. They
right.
gain maybe 15 years of growing of the tree, and the tree still having the big roots, okay?
Yeah.
So the tree is going to grow new branches. You can check in Google. It's amazing.
What's the word
it's
of
a
it?
big tree, daizugi. The tree is like this, and there is from the same tree, it's like coming up branches very vertical, like looks like a new tree, and you get a new branch every 8 years instead of waiting 20, you know, because the tree has enough strength to do it. You can. It's a beautiful example of all techniques that we miss it, but they're still being there, you know. They are very good for conservation because you go to the forest now. You want to build your cabin. You came the first year. You cut some, for example, that branch. I need this. I need this. Instead of killing, for example, you see this tree is right,
Yeah.
but you see the small branch come here. It's a
You
new
cut
branch.
off that
If you
line.
cut 20 centimeters above that branch, this tree is gonna regrow again
Right.
from here.
Yeah.
So you don't kill the tree, and you got the branch you need. So now the land is a resource, okay? So when you have this kind of thinking, okay, you can grow a lot, being sustainable, you know, and even with real examples are techniques that we don't need to develop because we already know, okay? We know because they are doing. They made it in the past, and now not all the world knows, but there are things, because there are a lot of things that we already have because we are here now, you know. It's like we survived it until here in this moment. So our ancestors made a lot of things. They already made organizations when there were Indians and they were moving, when they established small towns, you know, and they do it. They don't have even software, and they coordinate everything.
Right.
So it's not something new for us. We know we have it's like we already made it. So it's only about remembering or investigating a bit, and we can take a lot of good ideas from there and just make a small example.
And this is one of the beautiful gifts that comes from the point you brought up, right? To integrate the
Integrate the
locals
old
and the indigenous, right? They have magic because they've been on this land for hundreds potentially of years. And they have ways like this tree cultivation or like growing food in a certain way that we can stand the most to gain from it versus coming in and dominating and say, oh, we know best and we know everything. So very cool point. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
The other one where, oh, I forgot the next one where you were talking with Enruk. It were after this.
Talking about humans, economy, environment.
Okay, let's talk about the last thing you were talking about. Is about to have a business that is buying a land. Okay,
Right.
It's as simple as instead of make more investment or just putting the money in the bank or something,
Right.
you buy land. When you buy land, you're buying resources. Okay,
Right.
land is a resource. Everything is on land. Every resource is on land. It's like from minerals, from food,
Water,
from water, from
energy.
housing, from whatever you want. The land is a resource. So if you are buying land, okay, and in the future you will have it. Okay, this is a very complex idea. For me, from my point of view, land must not be bought or sold. Land is from nature. Land is from the people that is working the land. It's like because somebody came here 60 years ago, 6 centuries ago, and killed all body and say this is from the king, this king, this
Spain.
king, and now they are shelling all land, But the land at the beginning is like from where came this paper. If I put fire on that paper, you don't owe anything.
Right.
It's like
Right.
it's a concept that I think we have to develop more because I think there can be some changes in the future, in the short future. It's like people maybe start taking the national land, for example, and start sharing. It's like we have national parks or something like that,
Yeah.
And if you have a very good plan and idea, it's like a high consciousness to do it, to make it everything better, to evolve better, we have the land.
Yeah.
We have the public land. There are already our lands, It's
Yeah.
only a big movement, okay, but there is a lot of things that we can do. And another example of this is Mennonitas, Amish,
Yeah.
They go, they buy a piece of land, and there are maybe 10, and they go start run the families. When you need a new house, you grow, you're a child, you get married, you need a new house. All the community is building your house,
Yeah.
and you don't have to pay or nothing. You just
Yeah.
because you are adding something to the community. You will start producing things, so you don't care about how to charge for the house. Because the idea is not to charge somebody to earn money, it's about to grow the community. Because when the community grows, everybody grows inside the community.
Yeah, I
It's
agree with
happening.
the Mennonites structure. We have Mennonites in Belize as well, and every time somebody get married, need a house built, they all go out and build that house together.
They have a very good system. They are not caring about nature, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
using
yeah.
a lot of our
Right.
chemicals and that things.
Yeah, but
they-
like you said, right, there's a lot of pieces from a lot of things that you can pull those pieces together.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because if you think about it, we were born in our physical body here in this land, and then all of a sudden, you're like, I own Pachamama. You're
Yeah, right.
you're a
right,
guest here for a little bit, and you will be gone sooner or later,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. We'll
But
eventually
we're
go
running this
back to
piece
the-
that this is
But
mine.
we are not guests.
You know what I mean?
We
Yeah.
are gods inside here.
Well, you're right. But what
What-
I'm saying is, in this human body, we're coming from the ego structure of
You-
ownership.
I will. Okay.
The
sorry.
ego structure of ownership, instead of being of stewardship, is my point with all that. You know what I mean?
We are the only thing, it's like animal or whatever you want to call it, that can connect the three states of matter: energy, mass, matter itself, and information. And we are the only thing in this universe that we know capable of do it, because
Are you saying that in the human construct or?
no, it's like
Living
it-
species.
No, like a living species, and
Are
we
you
can
separating?
connect.
Are you separating yourself as a human versus this perito down here?
No,
or are you
inside
saying-
inside us, okay, we have three things that are, for example, our body is like our mind is related to matter. It's like the physical things we have that we know.
Yeah.
Our spirit, it's about the energy. Yeah, it's like no. In the spirit we have the information, and in our soul we have the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the energy of us is love. When you have love for something, we are gonna do it. It's like I need something. I put love on this. I have to feed my kid. I will put love on this, and I will go and I can have a big board like this, even if I never do, or I will try only because I have the passion to do it.
Yeah.
So we have, if we reunite our three things, we are capable of do whatever we want, whatever we need.
Right.
And when we cooperate, this is exponentially growing.
Collective.
Yeah, it's amazing the things we can do.
Yeah.
And we have the examples, we have the pyramids, you know, you have the things that our ancestors made that we are not capable to do now, yeah, and even to understand. And if we put more focus on the past, we will figure it out that it's a cycle. We came from the past, but we are coming back to the beginning again, you know, it's like it's like we came to a point in which we learn a lot, and now if we take all of the pieces together, we can solve the puzzle maybe.
Yeah.
You know? And we are in the era to do it because we have communication. We can know about things that techniques from Japan. We can know things and be connected in Argentina, in every place in the world instantly.
And not even
so we have the communication
also
that we
in
need.
time.
Yeah, everything.
Also in time, yeah, man, it's really
We
cool.
are just in the moment to make it to happen. So
Yeah.
it's not about to worry too much how, because it's gonna happen. It's like we are gonna figure it out. We just start working and the things are gonna start
It's
to
happening.
happen.
Yeah.
I love this concept of connecting the dots, right? Bridging the old and the new and bringing together the best of all worlds. And I think when we talk about ecosystems, it is asked for as well, right? Connecting all the different ecosystems and creating an holistic, intelligent, self-nurturing system from them, right? When we talk about the environment and land, for example, we care about it, we connect, we maybe build a permaculture garden in regards to that. And the permaculture garden allows us to feed ourselves and feed our neighbors, so create community with the locals around us too. It might also create an economical income source because we get to sell it, we get to create a farm-to-table restaurant or get in a relationship with other farms and restaurants around it and create a food network, right? That allows us to bring in people that come for this kind of experience, and we get to inspire others for regeneration, for this regenerative lifestyle. And in an ideal community, in a perfect world, we connect all of these different ecosystems and create a circular economy.
Beautiful. Okay, well,
May I
Yeah.
use? I was thinking of this joke that it pretty much encloses what you were saying. And this is 2000 whatever, 30, 40. And scientific understood or how to create life, right? So they get this meeting with God. So God comes and they come with the machine and some dirt from the land, right? So they say, you know what, God, now we know how to create life. So I think it's time for you to take a vacation, like some free time, because with this I can create. So they create life, and God says, okay, where do you get the dirt from?
right.
From the land that I built, right?
Yeah,
so it's
right.
pretty much that. I love what you said about the pie, taking in consideration the land, the river, or whatever.
Right,
So
as one of the stakeholders.
that's great.
Yeah,
Yes, like
it's an
stakeholder.
easy way with a system that we are all very familiar with, this capitalist, industrialist system, and just integrating now what we never thought of before. Again, same cycles as before. We never thought about certain groups of humans as equals. We are now in the phase of transitioning from not thinking of animals as sovereign, conscious beings to doing that.
Yeah.
And the next step, right, evolutionary, is nature, right? Paying attention to something that doesn't really ask for it. That is like a divine thing that I think unites a lot of us in this room and in this mission, that we are here for nature. Strongest connector of humans that I've ever met before. So yeah, really good point. Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. Well, guys, this was our final broadcast from Paledora for this season. It was an amazing time of learning about communities, sharing ideas, getting introspectives from all kinds of different perspectives and backgrounds and experiences. And we're excited to run the next version of this. In the next couple months, we'll probably do it here again, or maybe doing pop-ups at different communities in different places. Stay tuned, follow the Instagram channel, regen.tribe, and stay tuned for all the updates, you guys. We'll be letting out a weekly blog very soon, weekly newsletter. Okay, and after this, we will be adding a call with Juan, so a community creator in Argentina who has a magnificent space. Okay. Okay. The website? Okay. Cool. Yeah, we're gonna. Well, we're done with this call for now, but we will be joining the call with Juanzo later on in the afternoon, where he will be sharing his community. I don't know where the page is. 1 second. Umi Pi, right? Here it is. Ooh, Nicola. Community Umi Pi. We'll have an interview with Juanzo, founder and vision holder of this space, Umi Pi in Argentina, a bit later in the day. For now, we're gonna all jump in the pool because it's Mexican hot this summer already, and we're gonna go do a tour of Paledora. Thank you guys all for joining. Thank you all for being a part of this. And thank you guys all for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Facundo, director, behind the scenes, and beautiful soul.
Ahí, ahora sí.
Ketchup Facundo.
Gracias a todos por todo este
And
recorrido.
beautiful soul. Okay, ¿vos apagas?
Sí.
Oh yeah. Oh, you guys, excellent. What's up, man?
Ahí se conectó el de la comunidad vecina, no sé si escucharon, ¿no?
Dijo Jean-Luc que ahora vamos a dar una vuelta, creo.
Sí, sí. Creo que mejor hacemos la llamada más tardecito. What's up, guys?
Gracias, Esther, perfecto.
Recuerda que
El problema. Oh, sí, ahí está. Hola, Juan, ¿qué más, hermano? No te oigo, creo que estás con mute. Ahí estás, ahí te activé.
Hola, hola.
Ahora sí. ¿Qué más, Juan?
¿Cómo andan? ¿Todo bien?
Súper bien. Ajá. Por
Qué
acá,
bueno.
terminando el día aquí de taller. Tuvimos conversaciones buenísimas con varios participantes que están o creando su propia comunidad o en el mundo de apoyar el desarrollo de comunidades. Hablamos del tema de comunidad como ecosistema. Todos los componentes que requieren y son necesarios para crear esta burbuja bella que es una ecoaldea, una comunidad regenerativa.
Genial.
Aquí vamos mirando tu presentación de UMEPAI, la página web. ¿La ves ahí en la pantalla?
Sí, es el mapita del camino de acceso.
Sí. Contanos un poquito de UMEPAI, cómo empezó, vos cuánto tiempo andas allá, cuánta gente está viviendo allá.
Muy bien. Umepay es una comunidad, una ecoaldea en las Sierras Grandes de Córdoba y este año cumple 10 años de vida, de existencia, la comunidad
Wow,
Umepay.
éxito.
Sí, y hoy somos unas 130 personas viviendo permanentemente en Umepay. En un área de aproximadamente 300 hectáreas, ocupa hoy la comunidad. Y es una experiencia muy larga y muy linda de vivir en comunidad, de vivir en formatos nuevos. Yo no sé en qué línea venían hablando, qué es lo que más les interesa que profundicemos respecto a nuestra experiencia, porque entenderás que hay mucho para contar, muchas áreas.
Claro. Te puedo contar, por ejemplo, los temas como principantes, los temas grandes que hablamos. Que una ecoaldea es como una burbuja y adentro de esta burbuja hay varias burbujas requeridas para que esta fluya, digamos. Y las burbujas adentro, la primaria que está en el centro y comunica todas es el ecosistema humano. Cómo decidimos, cómo nos hablamos, cómo hacemos decisiones juntos. De esa burbuja están todas las otras en base, que son la burbuja de funcionalidad, los edificios en el espacio, cuáles van a ser las estructuras, los sistemas sustentables, todo eso. De ahí tenemos el tema de economía. ¿Cómo va a entrar ingreso a la comunidad? ¿Cómo vamos a comprar las cosas que necesitamos? ¿Cómo vamos a manejar los negocios? Todos esos temas. Es la segunda. La tercera es los sistemas sustentables, independientes, hablando como del ambiente. Agua, comida, energía, residuos. Y el último, el más grande, digamos, el que conecta todo, el que copiamos nosotros, es el ecosistema del ambiente. Cómo cuidamos no solamente el ambiente en el que estamos viviendo, pero también el ambiente de personas alrededor de nosotros, los locales, los indígenas, todas estas culturas. De esos temas, me encantaría que compartas lo tuyo, lo que tú creas, lo que más te enfocas tú en UMEPAI, el tema humano, es lo que muchas veces realizamos que es lo más clave para que sobreviva un espacio de estos como comunidad y no solamente se convierta en un hotel o un centro de retiros, por ejemplo.
Está muy bueno, está muy bueno.
Ujú.
Voy a tratar de hablar por lo menos un poquito de cada burbuja. Vos
Perfecto,
ayudame
perfecto.
a ir en orden y a no olvidarme de ningún área.
Ok, ok.
Eh, pero sí, empezando por lo humano, coincido en que es lo fundamental y es la materia prima, el elemento esencial a raíz del cual vamos a construir y construimos esa comunidad y como decís vos,
Ujú,
que perdure y prospere o no, es el factor clave. Y en la experiencia de
ujú,
UMEPAI, lo humano y la comunidad en sí surgió a raíz de un grupo de amigos, de 10 amigos, con un trabajo espiritual en común muy fuerte. UMEPAI nace como un centro holístico en el cual se facilitaban
ujú,
herramientas para el trabajo interior y
ujú,
yo veo que ese núcleo, esa matriz iniciadora, esa semilla de este grupo de amigos con tanto amor y con tanta afinidad en ese trabajo interior, hizo que después lo que atrajo ese núcleo, o sea, todas las personas que fueron llegando
ujú,
posteriormente, traían de alguna u otra manera, con sus diferencias, pero una semilla similar y eran invitados a esa matriz en la que el trabajo interior y el trabajo vincular eran fundamentales. Entonces, esto le permitió, según mi punto de vista, a UMEPAI crecer orgánicamente, pero siempre con esa matriz instalada desde que se originó la comunidad, en que lo vincular y lo humano siempre
ujú,
fue central y se le dio toda la importancia, el tiempo y todo lo que requirió en charlas, en círculos. Y es una característica hoy de UMEPAI que la hace para mí muy especial, el trabajo sobre lo vincular, el hablarnos todo, el tener todo al día, el no guardarnos cosas, el trabajar todas nuestras relaciones. Y bueno, el trabajo de los círculos en eso fue y es clave.
ese movimiento de crear un espacio que le introduce a la gente las herramientas. ¿Cómo lo dijiste? ¿Herramientas para desarrollo espiritual? ¿Cómo fue que lo dijiste?
Sí, herramientas para el desarrollo interior.
Interior, ok, ok.
Sí,
Como lo describiste, es el pedazo clave para que un espacio de esto sea una comunidad regenerativa. Ese es
sí,
el diamante en el centro. So, entiendo por qué ha
sí,
surgido tu comunidad de la forma que lo ha hecho. Éxito, bro. Felicidad, súper felicidad.
completamente de acuerdo. Sí, sí. A partir de ahí se fue abarcando de a poco a lo largo de los
Ujú,
años cada uno de los otros aspectos que vos nombraste, las burbujas, pero sin duda ese elemento es el esencial y el diamante, como lo dijiste vos.
ujú. Sí, total. Ok, so
¿Cuál era
ese
la
tema
segunda?
ahí. Ujú. Dale.
No, 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 decime vos.
Sí, te iba a decir que ese punto del el tema de herramientas para crecimiento personal es lo más clave de la comunidad y es la burbuja del centro en este modelo, que
Sí,
es la burbuja
sí,
social, humana, digamos.
correcto. 100% de
Ujú,
acuerdo, 100% de acuerdo.
ujú. Y de esa
Y también
burbuja, lo que... Dale, dale.
algo que me parece importante remarcar sobre este grupo de fundadores iniciales es la unión y la afinidad de estas personas que permitió que ese núcleo sea fuerte, sea sano, esa semilla a partir de la
Ujú,
cual brota y germina y crece esta comunidad, porque es como si fuera el fractal a partir del cual después la comunidad nace. Y por más que hubiera y haya diferencias y charlas y oposición de opiniones o lo que sea,
ujú,
prima esa unión vincular que hoy todavía la veo en Umepay, más allá de todas las diferencias y heterogeneidad que pueda haber.
Sí, sí, gracias a eso es que sobrevive la gente en, en colectivo.
Sí,
Y
sí,
gracias a esta
exacto.
burbuja del centro, empiezan las otras burbujas a formarse y a tener éxito también. Las otras burbujas que
Sí,
con las que más conectes, arranca, compárteme algo de cómo UmiPy lo maneja, o pueden ser cosas que fueron puntos de desconforte y cómo lo manejaron, o cosas que realmente se enfocan fuerte en eso. Por ejemplo, las otras burbujas de alrededor son la economía del espacio.
bien,
O también pueden
bien.
hablar herramientas que ustedes usan ahí para manejarse.
Bien, fue evolucionando y cambiando el formato de UMEPAI en varios aspectos. Al inicio era una comunidad más bien cerrada y en la que se compartía absolutamente todo, incluyendo la economía, la vivienda, las actividades, las tomas de decisiones. Y para mí eso fue parte de generar y formar ese núcleo del que hablamos, esa semilla, ese diamante, de fortalecerlo y determinar energéticamente los valores y la matriz esta, a partir de la cual después fue creciendo, y a medida que fue creciendo UMEPAI, se fue abriendo a lo que fue recibiendo de afuera, ¿no? A las nuevas llegadas, a las nuevas personas. Y hoy por hoy, UMEPAI, para traerlo al presente, funciona, o sea, cada persona puede tener su terreno y su casa, no es que vivimos todos juntos en un lugar o compartiendo un terreno o el sector
Claro.
habitacional. Y también lo que es economía, proyectos, toma de decisiones, lo manejamos todo por afinidad y por interés. O sea, cada uno puede participar de la parte que lo convoca, que le interesa, que lo llama. Muchas veces intentamos generar una organización central con toma de decisiones del formato asamblea y no lo hemos logrado y resultó forzado muchas veces. Lo que sí funciona es que por afinidad de interés nos vamos agrupando en distintos proyectos, grupos, comisiones, en la que cada uno puede trabajar desde el entusiasmo y el interés real,
Ya.
y eso nos funciona muy bien. Y respecto a lo que es la economía, uno de los principales motores.
Se me cayó la conexión.
Hola, hola,
Ahora sí, te oímos, te oímos. Volviste.
¿estamos ahí?
Ajá.
Bien. Respecto a la economía, que también es libre y cada cual la maneja como quiere, como puede y con el proyecto que le interesa. Un punto muy fuerte de la economía hasta el momento viene siendo la construcción. Trabajamos todo en bioconstrucción y eso
Bien.
genera mucho trabajo, tanto para los umepayenses como para otras comunidades locales y vecinas.
Ya. Ajá.
Y ahora también, que quizás es el punto en el que más involucrado estoy hoy por hoy, hay un proyecto muy fuerte que nace de la comunidad, en la que trabajamos en la restauración ecológica. Se llama Bosques
Claro.
de Agua el proyecto.
Sí, sí, lo hemos visto
Y
bastante. Ajá.
bueno, y desde UMEPAI nace este proyecto con la intención de restaurar la cuenca hídrica, que es el lugar donde nace el agua que después nos llega a UMEPAI y la que llega a nuestras casas. Y trabajamos en la restauración de la cuenca a través de la reforestación de los bosques nativos de altura en la Sierra Grande. Y
Claro.
este proyecto, que nace desde una inquietud ambiental y del impacto que nosotros generamos en nuestra comunidad, más allá de que tratemos de convivir armónicamente con la naturaleza, de todas formas somos conscientes de nuestro impacto.
Sí.
Entonces, buscamos proteger y conservar esta fuente de agua reforestando el bosque nativo. Y este proyecto se está convirtiendo también en una gran fuente de trabajo para la comunidad Umepay. Hoy somos más de 30 personas que trabajamos en el proyecto.
Wow.
Y me parece una gran oportunidad para todas las comunidades la posibilidad de enfocar y hacer pie y aprovechar como estructura y fuente de trabajo y también económico el trabajo en la restauración ecológica. Siento que es una gran oportunidad a nivel global, además de una necesidad, y hoy por hoy están las oportunidades y los fondos internacionalmente hablando
Sí.
para ejecutar en este tipo de proyectos.
Ujú. Sí, sí,
Entonces
total.
hoy...
Ajá.
No, decime.
Sí, que hay un campo muy grande para inversionistas que buscan ahorita no solo retornos de dinero, pero también buscan hacer un impacto positivo, impact investments, que
Sí,
solo vale la pena el dinero que va a entrar si hay un impacto positivo por el ambiente o por las personas.
totalmente.
¿Tu proyecto
Totalmente.
tiene algún
Y
tipo de este
también,
soporte?
sí, nosotros, principalmente Bosques de Agua, está
Ujú.
obteniendo fondos de organizaciones internacionales que se dedican a recibir...
El internet.
Hola, ¿estamos?
Ahí sí, volviste.
Perfecto. Estamos viendo que hay muchos fondos, te diría que ilimitados en términos y con destino a la restauración ecológica, a la reforestación, y lo que
Ujú,
faltan justamente son proyectos serios, prolijos y que tengan la
ujú,
capacidad de ejecutar esas tareas en una escala importante. Entonces es una oportunidad que hace 10 años, cuando nació UMEPAI, no existía y hoy existe. Me parece valiosa la posibilidad de las ecoaldeas en nacimiento o en proyecto de poder enfocarse o hacer pie en un proyecto de restauración ecológica
ujú.
para generar actividad, trabajo y economía para la comunidad.
Ok, sí, me encanta la idea de que la economía, este es el tema de las burbujas, que la burbuja de la economía comparta y colabore con la economía de la burbuja de ambiente. ¿Cómo podemos cuidar el ambiente?
Totalmente,
Qué lindo que
totalmente.
en el proceso de cuidar el ambiente también se nos llene la burbuja económica.
Así tiene que ser a partir
Claro,
de ahora para que el mundo sea el lugar que queremos que sea y podamos seguir habitándolo necesariamente.
así
La
mismo.
economía tiene que estar directamente vinculada.
Ujú.
Es una oportunidad hermosa.
Sí, fue uno de los temas que hablamos aquí de cómo cambiar del estilo de adueñarse del terreno en vez a conservador, steward, ¿conoces la palabra
Sí,
de ownership? Stewardship, que es cómo cuidamos. Y una forma
sí,
que hablamos fue de, obviamente, nosotros podemos comprar un terreno y decir, bueno, este terreno lo compramos para protección, pero siempre va a haber un valor de este terreno al mundo externo. Y cuando se empieza a involucrar gente a, a una etapa más adelantada, el valor se va reflejando en los que son adueñados del terreno del principio. Una estrategia que
sí,
hablamos es de, en ese corte de la pizza, crearle un pedazo al ambiente mismo, al terreno, que no solo son los 5 dueños que compraron, pero también el sexto ahí es el terreno mismo y la naturaleza, que con las ganancias,
está muy
ese
bueno.
dinero va enfocado a cuidar este terreno o hasta mejor comprar terrenos externos para protección, para proteger y para invertir estas ganancias que vienen
Total-
en donde deben
Totalmente,
estar. Ajá.
exactamente. Un poco así
Okay.
estamos trabajando.
Ujú.
Y ahora UMEPAI, que tiene estas 300 hectáreas, a través del proyecto Bosques de
300
Agua,
hectáreas, wow,
estamos
grande ya.
comprando, estamos comprando campos para hacer puramente reserva natural. Ya compramos
Nice.
210
Ujú.
para hacer la reserva natural ir reforestarlas. Y no solo es un éxito desde el punto de vista ecológico, sino que es
Ya.
un proyecto sustentable que genera ingresos, genera trabajos, genera
Claro,
bienestar.
claro,
Qué
claro,
mal.
claro.
Sí,
Ahí también están ustedes en el tema de créditos de carbón, con todos los
To-
bosques y los árboles y las hectáreas que están preservando y sembrando.
por el momento no hay un acuerdo concreto en
Ok,
relación a eso, pero sí estamos
ok.
trabajando en esa
Claro,
posibilidad
claro.
y
Chévere, sí.
ya varios organismos y empresas se mostraron interesadas
Ok,
en
bien.
el carbono, sí, sí, es también una posibilidad.
Me encanta que en este proyecto le introduces a la gente de una forma bien directa cómo de lindo es el ecosistema del ambiente, que con tener árboles encima de la tierra echan raíces y crean una esponja en el terreno y ese es el
Sí,
bosque de agua. Qué
sí,
belleza, bro, qué linda la conexión
exacto.
ahí. Me encanta cómo lo has como introducido una lección de varias horas en el nombre de tu proyecto. Bellísimo, bro,
Es
qué
muy
lindísimo.
hermoso.
Ajá, sí, sí, sí,
Muchas
es súper
gracias,
éxito.
muchas
Ajá, ajá.
gracias.
Ajá,
Sí,
desde que Facu los encontró, hemos estado súper ahí pegados, mirando cómo les va, qué es lo que andan haciendo, con ganas de ir a
qué lindo.
visitarlos. Ajá,
Cuando
tenemos una súper
quieran.
amiga que es de
Súper
Córdoba.
bienvenido.
Ajá, ajá, ya fue hace poquito que si, antes de que ella se fue, si hubiera sabido que existen, probablemente me le pego al viaje. Pero la
Muy
próxima
bueno.
seguro vamos, ajá.
Sí, sí, bienvenidos cuando quieran. Estoy seguro que les va a encantar.
Total, sí, este verano vamos a dar un viajecito aquí de Tulum hacia Ciudad México, visitando un par de comunidades, creando el perfil de ellos en video y soportándoles con redes y lo que hacemos nosotros, a contar el cuento e integrar tecnologías.
Muy
Volvemos
bueno.
aquí para el invierno y el próximo verano planeamos salir hacia Sudamérica, por Centroamérica
Genial.
y ir a algunos ecoaldeas en Sudamérica. Bro, eres la primera de la lista, honestamente.
Súper
Ajá,
bienvenidos.
chévere,
Súper.
chévere. Eso sí, ¿alguna otra cosa que nos quiera contar, Juan, de la alcaldía en nivel alto? Cosas que el tema de de estos talleres que hicimos fueron que gente venga o miren estos videos, que tengan la idea de una comunidad o ya tengan una comunidad y puedan sacar de estas conversaciones joyas que puedan usarlas ellos en sus proyectos. Algo que nos quieras compartir de esto, como que esto siempre, no fallamos en esto porque es clave. Por ejemplo, alguien que no falla en el jueves, el círculo de charla, que cada persona tiene la pluma y cuando la tienen solo ellos hablan y cuando la pasan, terminó, solo una audiencia que los escuchó y pudieron compartir. Es una
Mm.
joya que nos compartió un proyecto, que nosotros al 100 lo implementamos en las comunidades con las que colaboramos. Algo que puedas compartir de en este.
Yo creo que la joya, volviendo a lo que charlé al principio, respecto al diamante, al núcleo
Ya.
y a lo esencial, tiene que ver con, nosotros lo llamamos autorresponsabilidad, y es algo de no poner afuera lo que sea, ¿no? Como está pasando
Externalizar.
algo, claro, algo que me genera incomodidad o displacer, enojo o lo que sea, y siempre hacemos el ejercicio de traérnoslo para nosotros como responsables y creadores de eso, ¿no? De lo que sea que estamos viendo manifestado afuera. Y esa responsabilidad, al asumirla, nos da también el poder de modificar y de crear nuestra realidad, porque recuperamos eso que ponemos muchas veces afuera. Entonces, si lo uso para las cosas que me incomodan y no me gustan, después también tengo la posibilidad de usarlo para crear la realidad que quiero y que deseo. Y creo que mucho de la creación que vivimos en UMEPA y la magia que se vive tiene que ver con esa autorresponsabilidad individual de cada uno de los que estamos ahí. Y en esa responsabilidad también nos consideramos todos espejos y nos debemos la verdad y la honestidad y la sinceridad y mantenemos por eso limpios los vínculos, bien fresquitos con esto de no guardarnos nada, de decirnos las cosas.
Claro.
Bueno, esa creo que es, más allá de todo lo que se pueda ver en lo material, en los proyectos y todo, como una joyita desde lo sutil que hace la diferencia.
Hermano, es de un tema de comunidad al 100, es la clave, lo que empieza ahí adentro. Y así
Sí.
fue que nosotros empezamos nuestra misión de activismo. Empezamos la primera campaña en el tema de plástico y cómo resolvemos el plástico, empoderando equipos que tienen soluciones. Y siempre el resumen fue que la forma que se arregla el plástico es con cada personita encargándose de que ellos no usen tanto o usen cero y que cuiden lo que usen y lo manejen correctamente. Viene de adentro. Y el
Exacto.
activismo fue lo que nos trajo a este tema de comunidades. Un espacio colectivo de varias almitas que tienen consciente encargarse ellos mismos, la autorresponsabilidad. No solo de la basura, ni del agua, de la energía, pero para que funcione la comunidad, el interior de uno, cómo uno mismo maneja los triggers.
Sí.
Este momento de externalizar a decir, lo que esta persona está haciendo me molesta. Está mal ese pensamiento. Es, bueno, lo que ellos están haciendo, me siento de esta forma. Tengo que reflejar a ver qué adentro de mí está causando que yo reacte a eso. El poder
Exacto.
queda con uno mismo,
Sí.
el creador, el Dios, lo que uno quiera decir, el todopoderoso adentro de uno. Es ese momento que uno reclama su poder y puede hacer infinidad de cosas. Lindo,
Exactamente eso, hermano. Exactamente
muchísima
eso.
atención en ese comentario que acabas de hacer. Para mí personal, algo que voy trabajando los últimos años, pero
Sí.
verlo en colectivo es súper poderoso, la sinergia ahí de todos.
Sí. 100%.
Lindísimo.
Nuestro interior es el primer medio ambiente.
Exactamente. Gracias a esta conversación tenemos aquí un Google Doc donde hemos hecho como el resumen de todas las conversaciones de todos los talleres y acabo de agregar aquí el ecosistema que podemos decir hasta el más importante, que es el ecosistema interior de uno mismo. Gracias, hermano. Gracias a ti, ahí lo agregué al final, el último que pusimos en ecosistemas.
Muchas gracias a vos también, hermano.
Buenísimo, Juan Soso. Un gusto conectarnos. Gracias por hacer el tiempo de esa conversación, por todo lo que has hecho con UMEPAI, con Bosques de Agua. Y estamos súper animados de seguir en el proceso de comunicar las historias de estos proyectos para que la gente vea lo que es posible y ver ejemplos de éxito para que ellos puedan modelar y seguir en esas. Ahí seguimos súper conectados. Ajá.
Quedamos en contacto y súper al servicio. Lo que necesiten, cuenten con nosotros.
Total, lo mismo, hermano. Cosas que ustedes compartan, que quieran difundir más, sin pena, pongan @Regenerative y entre aquí el grupo todo lo difundimos por nuestra red, que es el mundo de nosotros.
A pleno.
Y ahí te lleguen lo que necesites, hermano. Abundancia en todas maneras.
Abundancia.
Ajá,
gracias,
un gustazo,
hermano.
Hanso.
Abrazo grande.
Nos vemos pronto.
Gracias.
Hasta
chao,
luego.
Chao.
Hey guys, so thank you so much for this excellent journey that we've had here at Paledora in Tulum, Mexico. Co-creating regenerative communities. This is what it's about. Working collaboratively to create these spaces where humans can come together, being conscious for themselves, to learn how to heal, connect with others, co-create with others, and do it all with Mother Nature as a guide and as our motivator. Get ready for a lot of huge things coming. Partnerships with land projects, eco-communities coming together, joining the network, and a membership service that will allow those of us excited to meet community spaces like this to visit multiple and potentially get involved with projects. Other things in the talk are an app to support with the process. If you're technical, reach out to us. We would love your help. An NFT line to start pre-selling spaces, experiences, and land after a while, and an investment fund that will allow us to raise the potential energy capital needed to create more of these spaces around the world for the growing demand of regenerative communities. Space is self-sustaining in terms of water, food, energy, waste management, and the key piece, the human element. This piece we just talked about, creating a space where all of the tools are presented to you from different brains and different experiences on how to best be conscious of yourself, be conscious of each other, and then be conscious of the environment. Thank you guys for joining this awesome series, and we look forward to many, many more and much, much more with all of us together. Welcome to Regen Tribe, the regenerative community movement. See you soon.